I'll call the meeting to order. Before we get started, let's introduce everyone on this meeting. I'm Jonathan Nickerson. When I call your name, please confirm you can hear me by verifying that you are present, starting with the commissioners, Travis Mast.
Present.
And Sandy, are you going to be chair or am I going to be chair then, or does it matter? If I,
Why don't we just have you be chair so we don't run into going back and forth? I just don't know if I'm gonna end up getting kicked off. So
that's fine.
all
So,
right, thank you.
Sandra Brock,
Yes.
and then for staff, Leah Cameron,
I'm here.
and our conservation agent, Jan Taylor. I'm sorry, I flipped that. Jan Taylor, our conservation assistant.
Present.
Thank you. This open meeting of the Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely via Zoom pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order, as most recently extended on March 29, 2023. Access information for the public has been provided on the town's website. This meeting is being recorded. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. This is done on a phone by pressing *6. As chair, I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. Please note that you will not have screen sharing privileges, but as staff can display any visuals per your cue. During periods for public comment, participants must use the raise hand icon on the Zoom menu bar to indicate they would like to speak. This is done on a phone by pressing *9 and then *6 to unmute when you are called on. Participants who raise their hands will be recognized one at a time and will be promoted to speak. Finally, each vote taken will be conducted by roll call vote. As a reminder, the Conservation Commission is concerned with state and town wetlands and stormwater regulations. Concerns outside this purview need to be addressed to the appropriate boards. For example, road conditions must be addressed with the select board and traffic concerns must be addressed with the planning board. So seeing that it's past 7:05, we can go right into it's 7:09 now, so we can go into the 7:05.
Yes, please.
All right. So pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, MGL C-131 S40, and Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, the Grafton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, September 17th, 2024 at 7:05 p.m. via Zoom to act upon a request for determination of applicability for soil excavation at 94 Worcester Street, Grafton, Mass. The application materials link and access information will be posted on the town website. So who's here to speak for 94 Worcester Street?
You're
Jan,
muted, Jan.
Promoting Kyle Cormier to speak. I promoted to panelist, so it's going to kick him out and bring him back in.
All right, Kyle, you're muted right now, but if you could unmute if you're here to speak for 94 Worcester Street.
Yes, Kyle Cormier with Oxbow Associates, here to represent the project and applicant, Tom Simmons with RemServe. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen just to go show the visual.
So you can't share your screen. We don't allow any folks except Jan to share,
Okay.
Staff to share. So if you've sent documents to Jan, she can pull them up and then she can scroll through as you dictate, any comments or any information that you'd like to share.
Okay, great. So the site is a empty paved lot. There are wetlands to the east of the proposed work. We flagged it 1 to 18 as BVW. The proposed work is excavation work, primarily soil testing. This work is going to be approximately 1,800 square feet. The closest point is 31 feet to the BVW. Soil that is going to be taken out of these two excavation areas is going to be recycled at Clean Earth and up in New Hampshire. Erosion controls will be placed around the limit of work where these excavations are taking place. So the excavations are depicted on this figure as those two yellow box areas. The outer boxes of the two individual box areas is the extent of asphalt removal, and then the inner squares are the where the soil will be tested and removed. Um, we believe this to be a minor activity under the Wetlands Protection Act. We don't foresee any impacts to resource areas. Yeah, any questions?
I'll start with the commission. So, Sandy, if you have any questions or comments off the bat.
I just have a couple of quick questions. Just to, when you go out to locate the saw cut, just to make sure it's surveyed in, that you do that. And just wondering if you could mark off on the pavement, just the pavement area, dash a line of paint or something, so the excavators know that they're not supposed to be go within the 25 foot. And the only other question I have is, what's the final condition? If you're removing the asphalt and you're going to take out soil, what's going in it and replacing the soil you're taking out, and what's the finished condition?
I believe it's being left in place for now, but I can confirm, or if, I believe Tom is actually in the meeting. He may be able to confirm right now, but I believe it's being left in place.
Okay, so you're just digging down and going to a certain depth to be able to test the soil? Is that what the purpose of this request is?
Correct. So there was potentially an old gas station here at one point, so they want to do some soil testing just to see if there's any contaminants in the soil.
Okay, and again, I would tend to agree that this is a minor activity. I just want to make sure we understand
Yep.
what's the finished condition so that you don't have erosion or any kind of migration of anything. So that's all. Thanks.
All right. Travis, any comments, questions for Kyle?
No, nothing from me.
All right. Leah, maybe you could go through any points that you wanted to make or things that you found.
Sure. Just one follow-up question to Sandy's. Will it be paved over top again?
I do not believe so. I'm thinking minimally it'll be seeded for now, just in case we decide to go further with the site. It wouldn't make sense to pave it and then have to pull it up again. So,
Okay,
but I can confirm with Tom.
that's the only question I had. Then I have a finding and a couple conditions if you'd like me to go through those.
Do we want to? There is somebody that has Tom in their name on the participants, so I don't know if we want to promote them if they're willing to speak to that or not. It doesn't. It says Tommy's something. So if not, then sorry, Leah. Feel free to go ahead with any conditions or any other points.
Okay, so I have a finding that it's a minor activity under 310 CMR 10.02 2B. Hold on, 10.02 2B 2G, which is a temporary activity with negligible impacts needed for design purposes. And then for conditions, I have the actually we can cross off my top one because the soil is not leaving the site. So I have erosion control shall be installed between the limit of work and resource areas maintained during work and removed upon completion. And then from our conversation tonight, I have that the limit of work will be painted on the asphalt so it's clear, and that the areas will be seeded when work is finished.
Okay. We'll open it up to the public for any comments. Sandy, please interrupt me if I'm going off course, or Leah.
Doing
we'll
great.
Open it up to the public to see if there's any comments. So Jan, if you could monitor the participants, see if anybody pops up with a hand raised that wants to make a comment about this. This is for 94 Worcester Street. This does appear to be, in my opinion, a minor activity. I guess my only question would be, so you're going to seed this, you're going to remove the erosion control, seed this, and it's just going to be grass in this parking or paved area. So there's no other temporary conditions that we want to have based on that. It's just going to be grass. I mean, if this is between the bank and the old pizza place, if I know my Worcester Street geography well enough here, I know vehicles drive through there and park there, and I don't know if that's going to be cordoned off with fencing or anything to keep folks off that. I would imagine that grass is going to get driven over. So I don't know if there's anything else that would be required there to keep that temporary condition from turning into a mess, or if that's not really something we're concerned with here. Sometimes there's tractor trailers in there. I drive past this probably multiple times a day. So there's tractor trailers that park in there that might queue up for the stores, or Town of Grafton police officers that queue up in there depending on where they're sitting and waiting. So this is going to cut off that parking from the other parking area, that paved area from the other paved area. And I would imagine that you might find people driving through it. So is there any consideration for that in the final condition of this soil remediation here, or this testing that's being done?
Yeah, I mean, that we can definitely maybe put up some traffic cones minimally. That might be an option. Again, I'm not entirely sure of what the finished product is in this location. I can confirm with Tom on that point if it's going to be grass or pavement or gravel. So that's something I can talk to him about and reach out to the agent and just let her know that that's what's happening.
Okay. Leah, does that sound fine with you?
Yeah,
In
that
terms-
works.
Okay.
Oops.
Jan-
I,
Jan,
so-
I'm
I'm
sorry,
sorry. I'm sorry. I just have one question for Leah. When we're looking at, I'm guessing this is just, this image is just GIS. What are the PH 1062 and EH 785? That's not anything with,
It's priority and estimated habitat, but it's the
not,
the
okay,
parcel
gotcha.
behind. It's not
Gotcha.
on this parcel.
Thank you very much. That's all. Sorry.
No, no worries, Sandy. Jan, any comments or any hands raised?
Nothing from the public.
Okay. So not hearing anything from the public and hearing the comments from the group here, do I have a motion based on everything that's been discussed to close the hearing and issue a negative determination?
I was trying to see if Travis was gonna do it, but I'll make a motion to close the hearing and issue a finding of a minor project.
Second.
All right,
And
I've got a,
I'm sorry, I should also have said, and conditioned as discussed.
yes, okay, thank you. I've got a motion and a second. The motion was amended. I'll do a roll call vote. Sandy,
Yes,
Travis?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Leah, do you want me to jump to a continuance? There's a couple of continuance that have been requested. Do you want me to do those first, or are we, if we have folks on for 121, 116, 124, and 115 Creeper Hill, 232, or do you want me to jump to that one, or do you want me to do the continuances? Do you have a preference, or with folks that are on the call, or Jan, if you see folks that aren't on yet that we need to wait for?
Why don't you go ahead and read in and continue those two in case people are waiting to hear from them. I'm not sure what folks are on here for.
Okay, so I'll jump to the first continuance for 12 Centennial. So Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, MGL C 131 S40, Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, and the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, the Grafton Conservation will hold a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent application for Grafton Stormwater Bylaw permit and an application for Grafton Wetlands Bylaw permit for the construction of a warehouse at 12 Centennial Drive, 36R Nelson Street, 83 Westboro Road, 105 and 105R Westboro Road, Grafton, Mass. The application materials, meeting link, and access information will be posted on the town website. It appears that this one, the applicant has requested a continuance to 10-1. So I don't know if we need to do any comment or anything, or if we can go to a vote on continuance, or do we need to, once it's read in, can we continue it?
Yep, just a motion.
Okay. So is
I'll
there a
move.
motion?
I'll move to continue the hearing for 12 Centennial.
I'll second it.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. I'll do a roll call vote. Sandy,
Yes.
Travis?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. The motion carries. The meeting is continued to 10-1. Jump down to George Hill. So pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, MGL C 131 S40, Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, and the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, the Grafton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing via Zoom to act upon a notice of intent application for Grafton Stormwater Bylaw permit and application for Grafton Wetlands Bylaw permit for the reconstruction of the roadway at George Hill Road, Fay Mountain Road, and Soap Hill Road, Grafton, Mass. The application materials, meeting link, and access information has been posted to the Grafton website. So they've also requested a continuance. So do I have a motion to continue the George Hill Road meeting to 10-1?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Sandy?
Yes.
Travis?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. The meeting or the motion passes and is continued to 10-1. Do you want me to hit any action items, or do you want me to jump down to Creeper Hill and Worcester Street, Leah? This work for New England Power.
I know someone is online for the second action item. If you want to do that, it'll be real quick.
Okay, so that's the Woodland Hill.
Yes.
Okay. So that I don't have to read in. That's just something that we can discuss.
Correct.
Okay. So this is for extension request DEP 164-1028, WP number 761, SWP number 16-6, Woodland Hill 100 Institute Road. So is there someone that's on to discuss this item, or do we need to just discuss it internally?
I mean, I can give you the little recap, and then
Great.
Essex Online, if he wants to say something, he's more than welcome to. So the permits for that subdivision are gonna expire in February. They're well underway into construction, but aren't anticipating full completion ahead of that expiration date. So they're asking for a 2-year extension. It is their second extension request. They had numerous factors at play for this one. COVID, they did the town work to lower the road and improve the sewer infrastructure. And this was the project that also changed owners at the beginning. So I have no problem with it. I recommend issuing a 2-year extension.
Okay. So any questions or comments, Travis?
No questions.
All right. Any questions or comments, Sandy?
Just a quick comment. Now, this is for the subdivision only, or is it for the subdivision and multifamily?
Just the subdivision, the multifamily's got its own set of permits.
All right, that's fine. Just that from erosion control standpoint and tracking things onto the road, the multifamily doesn't do a great job of cleaning up. Not so with the subdivision. I haven't noticed anything as I go by it almost every day. So I have no other comments or questions.
All right. And because this is an action item, we don't open it to the public, or we do?
Correct.
We don't.
I mean, it's not it's not like a formality we do every time, like with a public hearing, but if someone were to raise their hand and want to say something, if you wanted
Right.
to allow them to, you certainly could.
Absolutely. I'll give the opportunity. So if there's anyone in the public on the call that wants to discuss what we just brought up for Woodland Hill 100 Institute Road and issuing them a 2-year extension, please raise your hands. And we can allow you into the meeting. Essek, if you do want to jump in and provide any comment, you're welcome to as well. Just raise your hand and we can allow you in. If not, I'll continue to stall and talk about nothing for a minute. And what I've learned from the best over here with Sandy while waiting on any comments or any attendees. So if you do have any comments or questions about 100 Institute Road, please raise your hand. Jan, I don't see anybody looking to provide comments there.
No, nothing from the public.
Okay. So that being said, any other questions, Sandy or Travis?
Nope.
Nothing. Okay, shaking your head, no. So do I have a motion to issue a 2-year extension for the 100 Institute Road project?
So moved.
All right, and I will second that.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. I'll do a roll call vote. Travis?
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Yes. All right.
That
Sandy?
worked.
Yes, and yes.
All right. I'm also a yes. The motion passes and they've got a 2-year extension for 100 Institute Road. All right. Do you want me to jump back up to Creeper Hill and Worcester Street or take on
Yeah.
another act?
Yep, I would do New England Power next, the Creeper Hill
Okay.
and Worcester Street.
Okay. So pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, MGL C-131 S-40, Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, and Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, the Grafton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing via Zoom to act upon a notice of intent, application for Grafton Stormwater Bylaw permit, and application for Grafton Wetlands Bylaw permit for the construction of permanent work pads and improving access roads at 121, 116, 104, and 115 Creeper Hill Road and 230, 244, 244 rear Worcester Street, Grafton, Mass. The application materials, meeting link, and access information has been posted to the town website. So, if we have someone that's online right now that is able to speak to this one, is that you, Olivia?
Yeah, that's me.
All right, the floor is yours. Jan can pull up any materials that you've provided, and please give us the overview, and we'll continue from there.
Sounds good. And I'm here with Erin from National Grid, but I'm going to start with a project background. So I think most of you know me already. My name's Olivia Shaw. If anyone doesn't know me, I'm an environmental scientist with TRC, and I'm here representing National Grid for the 313, 343, 0141, P142 project. And just to give you a little bit of a project description, so this project is going to occur within an existing right-of-way, and we are qualifying it as a limited project under the utility maintenance provision in the WPA. And the majority of project work is exempt from WPA jurisdiction, as well as the Grafton Stormwater and Wetland bylaws, because it constitutes utility maintenance. But a small portion of the work involving the creation of permanent work pads and some permanent access roads is not exempt. And so that's the subject of this NOI, and that's what we're going to dive into today. So the reason that these non-exempt components are being proposed, because they're not completely usual, is really to make the access to these structures more resilient and more efficient going forward as we have more extreme weather events with climate change. It's going to be more and more important to have fast, easy, efficient access to these structures. So that's really the gist of why this is being proposed. And we have some other permits. So I believe we're currently going through the MEPA process. We've also filed a permit with the Army Corps, water quality cert with DEP, and we're working with the Grafton Planning Department right now on that local permit. And the permit for today, we are seeking an order of conditions under the WPA as well as a wetland and stormwater permit from Grafton. And we're also requesting specifically a 5-year order of conditions just to accommodate 2 different phases of work, one of which will likely not start for a couple of years, but they're being grouped together for this permit. And so that's the reason for that slightly extended order of conditions. And I will talk about the resource areas that we're going to be impacting. So Jan, I was wondering if you could go to sheet 15 of the plan sets, because that sort of shows a representation of all the resource areas. So I'm not sure if I can see that. Okay, there we
This
go.
plan set only has 10 pages.
Sorry, it's in the bottom, it says like page 6 of 92 because we
Gotcha.
clipped this from the larger set. So it's the one that says sheet 15, but I don't actually know what page of the PDF it is. But
This one.
perfect, thank you. So in bordering vegetated wetland, we are going to have only temporary impacts, and that'll be from construction matting. And that will total 13,369 square feet. And all of that, just like every other National Grid project, will be restored in situ with stabilization with straw and then seed as needed to make sure it all revegetates. And then in bordering land subject to flooding, we had originally proposed a small amount of permanent impacts, but we've actually just been talking today and decided to nix that. So same thing with bordering land subject to flooding. We're going to have only temporary impacts, and that's from 2 work pads that are located in that floodplain. And those are going to be matted as well, and then obviously restored in situ following construction. And that totals 8,697 square feet of temporary impact. And the mats, also per the National Grid BMP, will be anchored where they're located in floodplain. And then we have 130 linear feet of impact proposed to Inland Bank, which will also be temporary in nature. And there are some National Grid specific BMPs to make sure that the matting put on bank does not impact the integrity of the bank. And same thing there, those will be restored in situ with seeding as needed and stabilization to make sure that they revegetate. And then we have 60 square feet of temporary impacts from matting to land underwater. And that's not actually from this page here on the pond, but it's from a small intermittent stream up on the first page. And in reality, the matting usually spans the stream and won't actually touch the ground, but because it's shown on the plans, we consider it to be a temporary impact. But same thing there, that's 60 square feet and will be restored in situ. And then we have impacts to buffer zone that are going to be a little different than the rest of the impacts. So we have 99,352 square feet of temporary impact proposed to work pads. And what's going to happen on these work pads is they're going to strip the topsoil and then add a layer of crushed stone just to make it more stable and better for construction equipment. And then after construction, they'll go back in with loam and seed and make sure that it revegetates to its original condition. And we are considering these temporary impacts because the grade of the work pad is not going to be changed, and the ground cover following construction is going to be the exact same as it was before. So your general like grass meadow conditions in the right of way. But then we do have some permanent impacts to buffer zone as well that we're proposing, and that totals 26,894 square feet. And that's for 2 separate components. So one of those is the work pad around structure 155. And based on field review, this work pad is going to need to be graded just because it doesn't present a safe slope for construction vehicles to work efficiently. So similar to the other work pads in buffer zone, this is going to be scraped off and then graded and leveled, and then it will be loamed and seeded at the end. But we're considering this a permanent impact because the grade will be different in the end than it was before. And then we also have some permanent impacts in that larger number of the 26,000 from the creation of access roads. And so similar to the work pads, these are going to be scraped out. They're going to add some gravel. But then unlike the work pads, we are not planning to revegetate these after. So we're not going to add loam and seed to the access roads just so they can continue being accessed. In my experience, they will probably revegetate on their own eventually, but we're not going to do any like action to make that happen. And then just to go into some stormwater information as well. So we're not proposing any increase in impervious area, no expansions of the right-of-way, and the project has been considered by our engineers to be redevelopment. We're going to install a few stormwater features as needed throughout the roads, but that will be based on specific field conditions, and that'll be down to the environmental monitor. And there will be no new outlets, outfalls, or structures that discharge to wetlands. Engineers have determined that the post-development peak discharge rates will be the same as the pre-development. And then we're using the low impact development technique of making sure that all work pads in resource areas, so buffer zone and floodplain, are either matted or are added, we add soil to them just to make sure that they revegetate properly. And then work pads in upland areas will be left to revegetate naturally, just like the access roads. And we will also be preparing a SWIP and submitting an NOI to the EPA prior to construction. So that will determine the inspection frequency that we do. And so based on my experience, it will likely be weekly inspections plus an inspection after any rain event that's either over 0.25 or 0.5 inches. And so we monitor the site. And I believe it'll be my company that's performing those inspections. And I don't know, we have a couple waiver requests. Leo, would you like me to elaborate on those here?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So one of the waiver requests is for maintenance and matting to occur within the 25-foot no disturb zone. And this is just due to the location of the structures and the work pads. It's unavoidable to maintain them without getting in that no disturb zone. So that is one of the waiver requests. And you can see if you zoom in along the work pad, we've shown erosion controls around the edge of the work pads where they're very close to resource areas just to mitigate any potential offsite migration of sediment. And then we also were requesting a waiver for matting to exceed 5,000 square feet. And again, that's just because of the scope of work. In order for safe access to the structures to happen, we need to have larger work pads. So that's another waiver request. And then we are also requesting a waiver for the requirement to create a phasing plan. So National Grid is going to be moving along the right-of-way in a linear fashion and can't necessarily guarantee the amount of disturbance that's going to be happening at any one time. But because the vast majority of the disturbance that we're proposing is really just construction matting, we have not proposed a phasing plan, and it really is unlikely to exceed 5 acres at any one time. And again, we will be doing SWIP inspections, so the whole site will be monitored after rainfall events and at the very least weekly. So that is all I have, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Any comments from Aaron that we want to? Aaron, do you have any points to make before I go around to our group?
No, I didn't know. I don't know if you said MISA or MIPA during the beginning, but the MIPA process has been completed. We received a certificate of our single environmental impact report earlier this year, and have since, filed with all of our state agencies at this point. But no, I think Olivia covered it. This is the bulk of the project is transmission upgrades to 2 existing transmission lines. One was installed in the 1920s and one was installed in the 1960s. So there is need for the upgrade itself. And as Olivia mentioned, these access roads, I think you're aware of, the corridor of this right of way. There's multiple transmission lines varying in voltages, whether it's 345 kV, 115, 69 kV. So there's a multitude of electric lines that do require, a substantial ability to access down that right of way. And so, along with that, we've noted that work pads, for that grading, the reason for the grading is so that, we can access any of these structures in the event that we do have a future storm. So other than that, I think Olivia did a great job covering the project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll start with Commission. Sandy, any comments, questions?
Just a quick general question. Leah included the DEP comments. Have they been addressed?
We have not written an official statement to address them. Aaron, I don't know if you have been working with Dan.
No, I haven't. I could pull them up if you give me a minute or two, and we could possibly go through them if you'd like.
Well, yeah, I mean, we could do that. And I don't know if Leah has any comments on this. I'm just reading through them. And it's like certain things about flood storage and about certain restorations, doing as-built and those type of things. There's also some questions about stormwater. And we can go through them, but I think we would want to have, I think like a letter from a PE that indicates how they determine that, there's no, no adverse impacts from this work and that stormwater won't be changed. I think that's probably what's needed, but we'd like to have something, just some sort of document that responds to their comments because of the number and what the comments are.
Yeah, we can easily respond to those and provide a response to the commission.
And I was just curious if Leah had any other comments on those.
On the DEP comments, not specifically, but I do have other questions.
Okay.
If Travis, before we jump to Leah's comments and any recommendations or any items, do you have any comments to throw in there or questions?
No, I think responses to the DEP comments will address anything I had, so nothing else
Okay.
right now.
Thank you. So Leah, do you want to run through any questions you've got?
Sure. The first one is just to confirm to make sure I'm understanding correctly. So the work pads, their final appearance when they are not in the buffer zone is gravel. And then they revegetate as they will naturally. But the ones in the buffer zone are also going to be loamed and seeded over top. Am I understanding that right?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. One question I had was, is there any special like processes or protocols that will be followed for, I think it's called out on the plan set is where I noticed it, just work within the potentially contaminated site shown on the plans? Just didn't know if there were any special protocols that are followed there.
Yeah, I can take this one, Olivia, if you want. So National Grid is aware of the activity and use limitation that encompasses the Wyman Gordon facility. Some of that actually encroaches onto the right-of-way itself. We have retained the services of a licensed site professional through Conoco Engineers, Conoco Engineers and Scientists, I think the name is. The LSP for the project is either Brian Klingler, and sorry, the other gentleman's name is Jonathan O'Brien, sorry. So they have been overseeing, the scope of the project. We would be putting together a soil and groundwater management plan that meets the activity and use limitation, the details of that document. And we would be providing notification to Mass DEP, the Office of Hazardous Waste Management, so that they're aware of our work activity in advance of construction.
Okay.
But
And
just I'm sorry, Leah, I was gonna
No,
say,
you go ahead.
just to add on, just a quick thing is that, that sounds fine. It would be nice to have we would like to see a copy of the soil management plan and, any other documentations that you send DEP. We are not reviewing it, but we'd like to have it for our records. So if someone asks, we have it.
Okay. It will likely be close. So the project itself is a project that runs from Millbury to Air. So I don't exactly know the timing of when would actually get to Grafton. But in advance of that, when that soil and groundwater management plan is developed, we will certainly provide you a copy of that.
And that's fine. We can just put a condition in it that you submit it when it's completed.
Okay, great.
Back to me.
Yep.
So as Olivia mentioned, they are requesting a 5-year order to cover the phases of work. I just added a note that the commission is able to do this, and I listed the section of the regulations, and it reads where special circumstances warrant and are set forth in the order. So if we decide to go ahead and do the 5-year, we should turn that into a finding. And we do have this with Ecotech for review. They reviewed it in a couple other towns that it's going through as well. I don't have comments back from Art yet. And my last comment is just that our stormwater bylaw regulations, we do have requirements that redevelopment meet 80% TSS and 50% TP. So I know that through redevelopment, like a lot of the standard processes and procedures didn't have to happen through this application. But we either need the math on the TSS and the TP, or it would become another waiver request.
I don't remember off the top of my head what calculations were done, but I can dig into the stormwater report and get in touch with the engineer for sure about that.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay. So it sounds like we're waiting on a response from the applicant for the DEP's comments, or response to the DEP's comments from the applicant, as well as maybe a couple items. I can open it up to the public for any comments now, just so we hear from anybody that's in the public that wants to raise their hand and address this project. For it's 121, 116, 124, and 115 Creeper Hill Road, as well as 230, 244, 244R Worcester Street. And again, this is just a portion of the job, the work pads and access road improvements. So if there's anyone in the public that wants to speak in the matter, please raise your hand and we can allow you to get into the meeting and speak. While we're waiting to see if there's any folks that want to participate here, Leah, can we do, or Sandy, can we, contemplate waivers, or are those all going to hinge on DEP comments and anything else at this stage?
I don't think the timing, I don't think DEP responses is going to change anything to do with their work within the no disturb, because that's a local. Phasing plan is local. Lee, is the 5,000 square feet also local?
Yes.
Okay. So short answer is it's up to us.
Okay. So Sandy, thoughts on approaching the waivers this evening, or should we be waiting?
I mean, I'll, like to have Leah's input too, but at this point,
Sure.
based on all local stuff, I don't think any of the responses or any of the other information coming in would alter that. So,
Yeah, if you wanted to vote on those tonight, you could, because it's not gonna change, like, they're in the no disturb because of where things are.
Okay.
They need over the 5,000 square feet because of the amount of matting that they need. And Olivia touched on the phasing plan earlier, so I don't foresee any revised materials changing that.
Okay. Travis, any thoughts there? Sound reasonable to you to approach those?
oh, have we lost them?
Ah,
There you go.
I
can
said,
hear
yeah,
you.
that works.
Okay. All right. So having discussed that, and again, we haven't seen any comments from the public, Jan, on any of this, right? Or raised
No.
to. Okay.
Nothing from the public.
All right. So hearing that, do I have a motion for the waiver request for exceeding 5,000 square feet of resource area impacts temporarily? I don't know how I forgot how those get worded when Sandy words them in the past.
That works. So I'll just say so moved.
Okay.
Second.
All right. So I've got a motion and a second on the waiver request for the 5,000 square foot of resource area impacts temporarily. I'll do a roll call vote. Sandy,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
I'm also a yes. The waiver's been granted. Do I hear a motion on the waiver to not include a phasing plan for the exceeding 5 acres based on the conversation we just had. Is that worded correctly, Leah?
Yes.
Okay,
So I'll make a motion that we grant a waiver for the 5-acre disturbance as noted in the findings.
all right, I've got a motion.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. I'll do a roll call vote. Travis,
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
I'm also a yes, that waiver has been granted. And then there's a final waiver request to allow work within the no disturb as described and discussed. Do I have a motion for that waiver request?
So moved.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. I'll do a roll call vote. Travis,
Can't hear you.
Yes.
there we go. Sandy,
I'm also a yes.
all right, that waiver has also been, the motion has been passed for that waiver as well. So, do we want to go through any additional, Leah, any additional findings or conditions? Or is that something that we should be waiting on?
I think we could do that next time, as long as we're continuing.
Okay. So back to the applicant, Olivia, Aaron, based on needing some responses to the DEP comments and a few of those outstanding items, would you like to request a continuance to 10/1, which is our next meeting? If not, we have meetings on 10/15, 11/12 and beyond, if you've got a preference for the continuance, if that's the direction you'd like to head.
Yeah, 10-1 would work for us, I think. Yeah, looks like it works for Aaron.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, so the applicant's requested a continuance to 10/1. So do I have a motion to continue the hearing for 121, 116, 124, 115 Creeper Hill Road and 230, 244, 244R Worcester Street for the work pads and access road improvements to 10/1?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. I'll do a roll call vote. Travis,
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. The hearing of the it is continued to 10/1. We will see you next time.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
All right. Continue to go down in the list in order here, Leah,
Yeah.
or is there? Okay, so I'll read in 115 Ferry Street. That's the next one.
Yes.
Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, MGL C-131 S40, Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, and the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, the Grafton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing via Zoom to act upon a notice of intent, application for Grafton Stormwater Bylaw permit, and the application for Grafton Wetlands Bylaw permit for the construction of a PFAS water treatment plant at 115 Ferry Street, Grafton, Mass. The application materials, meeting link, and access information has been posted to the town website. So who's here to speak for 115 Ferry Street?
That would be me.
All right.
I'm Mike
You have the floor.
Carmesine, representing the South Grafton Water District on this project. So I'll get right into the brief just project description. So they recently had elevated PFAS levels in well 2 and 3. And it's a critical health concern to get that out of the water. So we're proposing a 30 by 40 metal building, which essentially houses a filtration system. So that's right there in the middle. Filters are very large for PFAS filtration, which is unfortunate, but basically the project is kind of fitting that building in next to their existing well 3. They have another well that's a little farther down the access road. So it's a metal building requiring some pre-treatment for the roof runoff. And so adjacent to that is a sediment forebay by a retention pond. And then to the southeast is a backwash infiltration basin. So that's sized to handle the backwash flows volumes for both filters. In addition, there's some minor site activities. We're gonna fence in the surrounding area around the building, do some stone maintenance around the building, and then there's some underground water mains to plumb in the filter system. Additionally, as you see it going east up through what's sort of a clearing, there's we're bringing gas service through Eversource down to the project site, because they'll be using an emergency generator for backup power, and they're required to have a bathroom in the building. So we have a grinder pump station that is going to be pumped up through a force main, small diameter force main, to the manhole, which is located, I think that was Sampson Street, up at the corner, top right corner of the page. So with that, we're going through a intermittent stream, causing some disturbance about 20 length feet of the bank of the stream, which you can see is in blue, where the wetland flags are. Disturbing about 300 square feet of land under water body, which is just to excavate and backfill the trench that's going to be created from the force main and the gas service. And then we also have some disturbance to the riverfront at the bottom of the page, which is 300 square feet, 3,000 square feet temporary, and 3,000 square feet of permanent impacts, which are mainly fencing, stone around the building, and some buried utilities. So that's essentially the project. Thanks everyone for some of the feedback over the help over the past month. We got actually no DEP comments, so that was nice to see. So we got that back, that notice back last week. But yeah, that's about it. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. So I'll jump right in with the commission. So Sandy, any comments or questions off the bat before we continue to go around here?
Just a couple of quick questions as far as, is this treatment being required by Mass DEP because of the hits on the PFAS?
It is, yeah. So that the well that's, you can see sort of a grayed out building, that's well number 3. It's the larger capacity of the 2 wells. That's completely shut down from public use. That was the one that got the PFAS hits to it.
Okay.
So they're kind of running on a reduced capacity right now, making it work.
Okay, and just to kind of add on to that, so it's just a filtration system to get the PFAS out, and you might want to just give a 30-second what is PFAS for the commissioners. So you're doing filtering, you talked about some backwash. What happens to that backwash? And then basically, where's the discharge, just to make sure? I don't think you're going to be discharging to the wetlands, but I want to ask the question.
Yeah. So PFAS stands for polyfluoroalkyl substance. There's a lot of different types, but they're all kind of classified in the milligrams per liter category, and the threshold is something that's regulated by the state. And so a lot of towns are going over the threshold. It's created by, it's a byproduct of manufacturing typically. So it still gets manufactured to this day in some ways, but it can end up it travels through groundwater over time and can pop up in different communities. So it's expensive to treat. It's just a very large filter, and it's sized based on the flow of the pump stations. And there's different, we always use DEP approved methods. There's different types. We're using Fluorosorb for this particular plant, and it binds to the PFAS and kind of locks it in place inside the filter. And then periodically we'll backwash the filters, which kind of fluffs up the media. And what that is, it's a specific volume that you need to do. And that goes directly to the backwash infiltration lagoon. So as you can see, it's bigger than the building. So that gives you a sense of the flows. The filters themselves are 2 10-foot diameter vessels. So hopefully that answers some of you. I could go on, but
Yeah, no, I mean, so you're sending the backwash to the lagoons. How does that PFAS get taken out and not, it doesn't go out with the backwash, I guess is the question.
it doesn't. Yeah, it stays locked in the media.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's really just the key thing.
Yeah.
And for the rest of the commissioners, the forever chemicals, Teflon, other things, and yeah, this is not great stuff. So thank you.
Yep, sure.
And Sandy, I think you had one other question that you'd asked and kind of pointed at was none of this is getting pushed as discharge into the wetlands, correct?
Yes, that was a question. It's all going to lagoon.
It's all going to lagoon. Okay.
Correct, yeah. It'll all fit. It's all sized to fit in the lagoon. We show an overflow just as good practice, but they kind of have the option to choose to backwash when they want to. It's not something that they need to do daily or weekly. Typically, it changes based on your water quality, but could be monthly, could be twice a year, 4 times a year, that kind of thing.
Okay. That's helpful. Thank you very much for that explanation. Travis, any questions or comments?
Nope, nothing else for me.
All right. I don't have any questions at this time. Leah, any conditions, recommendations, questions that you want to go through?
Yeah, I have a few things. One is that what DEP issued was kind of bizarre this time. They just said this application was reviewed for administrative completeness. So I did write back and ask, should we anticipate any technical comments, but they didn't answer me.
Okay.
You don't have to have DEP comments to close, you just have to have the number, but that's something to keep in mind. Then I have, that the runoff from the metal roof goes to the sediment forebay and then into the bioretention pond, correct?
Yeah, correct.
So not being a stormwater expert myself, does the commission find that to be okay? We just started talking about metal roofs in one of our other hearings. So I just wanted you guys to weigh in on that.
So I would have a quick question. Most metal roofs are covered. So my question to the applicant is when you say metal roof, what do you mean by that?
It's a typical standard steel zinc coated steel roof.
So it's like a seam panelized roof system that's
Yeah.
part of the metal building. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly. So it's not like a shingle roof or anything, not a rubber roof. So it'll have its having like a gable pitch to it, all metal. It'll have like the standing seam metal roof. So that's just in the DEP regulations. Like I think it's based out of the metal roof wearing down and potentially having some runoff from it, or like maybe as it ages. So a sediment forebay bioretention is part of the ways you get the TSS removal requirement.
So what you're saying is you're actually putting in the forebay and in the bioretention for treatment from the metal roof, since it specifically says in I forget whether it's the regulations or the handbook, that runoff from metal roofs are not considered clean, unlike other roofs types.
Yeah, correct.
Okay,
Yeah, and
thank
it's
you.
counterintuitive, but yeah, especially in the zone one of the well too.
Leah, does that help?
Yes. And I just had one other item, which is that we've been going back and forth a little bit over email, fixing the riverfront section in the NOI. So just one thing that did come up is they have 17,700 square feet of total riverfront on the site. So for the 10% or 5,000 that they would be allowed, 5,000 would be larger than the 10%. But they are at 6,000 total impacts, temporary and permanent. So I know in your last email that you talked about maybe being able to reduce that down to the 5. If we could just talk that through. Especially with the plan up.
Yeah, sure. So that second blue line is the 200-foot boundary. So really the grayed out portion below that line that's fenced in, that it's gravel. That's the 3,000 square feet of permanent impacts. And basically whatever the contractor needs to work around that, I would consider temporary, because they're restoring it. So sort of an arbitrary number. And I think maybe 3,000, we can restrict that down to 2,000 and be in compliance with the rule.
So you're saying leave the permanent as the 3,000, which is the gray stone area fenced in, and then have only 2,000 square feet of access around that to clean it up and close it out at the end of the project.
Yeah, I think that's very reasonable.
Okay. Leah, does that work?
I mean, if we're able to do that, then it meets the standard. I'm just not sure how we police that, so to speak.
Would you?
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that, Michael?
Just make it clear to the contractor. I mean, they're not gonna go out of their way to disturb areas that they don't need to, because they have to restore at the end of the project. So there's that. But telling them, just having it in the order conditions kind of thing, that goes into our contract. And showing it on the plan set too. You can definitely make that clear.
Could a visual barrier like snow fence or erosion control or something be placed around that perimeter so the contractor knows not to go in it to maintain that? I don't know, Leah, if we've done that in the past.
Yeah,
Or
that would help.
You could also you could also just have it staked during, just
that's
witness
probably the
stakes
easiest.
and stuff, yeah.
Because I think the erosion control is in a good area. So yeah, we'll flag it. That's probably the best way.
Okay.
And Jonathan, I think your recommendation of having it a condition is appropriate.
Okay. Yeah, working for a contractor, I know how site contractors can ignore some of those things if they're not a physical barrier. So very familiar with that. So again, they're not purposely, typically, they just, they're out there working in a skid steer or a piece of equipment, and they can go beyond. So we want to make sure that that's identified with being staked out and identified with flags or something so they can see that. So, okay. Leah, any other comments, questions? I think you've got some conditions as well.
Yeah, that's it for my questions. If you want to throw it open to the public while I then read findings and conditions, we could do that.
Sure. So if anyone from the public has any questions or comments on the 115 Ferry Street PFAS water treatment plant for the South Grafton Water District, please raise your hand and we can address you and you can come in and chat. So Jan, if you could keep an eye on the chat, just or the participants, just to see if anyone's raising their hand. And then Leah, if you want to jump into conditions while we're waiting.
Sure. So they do have a waiver request for work in the no disturb, due to the layout of the chosen utilities that they have. I have a finding that it's a limited project per 310 CMR 10.5330, which is expansion of a public water supply well and well field. And then for conditions, I have a signed illicit discharge statement shall be provided prior to commencement of work. Work within resource areas shall only occur during dry or frozen conditions. Material removed from the land underwater for construction shall be stockpiled and put back in place afterwards. The bank shall be seeded with New England erosion control restoration mix for moist sites. I pulled that right out of their narrative. And then ongoing maintenance for the bioretention area shall include quarterly inspections for erosion and standing water, removal of trash, removal and replacement of dead vegetation, annual pruning, replacement of the media as needed, maintenance of clear pathways for the roof runoff, and the clearing of any debris. That's all I have.
All right. Jan, any hands raised from the public or?
Yes, we have Paul who's raised his hand. I'm going to allow him to talk.
All right, Paul, if you can unmute, and any comments we can address for 115 Ferry Street.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Paul Vigent, 30 Leland Hill Road. I am an elected commissioner for the South Grafton Water District, and I just want to thank you for your time and listening to Mike present this for us. I heard some of the questions, and we definitely don't want to do this. This is something DEP is requiring for us to do because we get hit with this PFAS contamination. And so it's necessary to protect the public health. And I hope you take that into consideration and move this along, hopefully. And I'll let you get back to it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for the comments. So that being said, Jan, any other raised hands from the public or anyone else that's wanting to speak?
Nothing further from the public.
Okay. So maybe we can tackle the waiver request first for work within the no disturb due to the layout of the utilities. So or I'm sorry, Sandy, any other questions or comments before we move into any of the other steps here?
I'm good.
Okay, Travis, anything else?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So do I have a motion to grant the waiver requested for work within the no disturb due to the utility layout?
So moved.
Second,
Got a motion and a second. I'll do a roll call vote. Travis,
Yes.
Sandy?
yes.
I'm also yes. The waiver motion has passed. And then do I have a motion to close the hearing and issue the order of condition and permits based around the conversation and conditions as Leah has outlined for 115 Ferry Street?
So moved.
And I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. I'll go to a roll call vote. Travis,
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. The motion passes. Thank you very much, Michael. Appreciate the information and good luck.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you. All right. I think there's only a couple things left now. One is that's the first action item, Leah.
Yes.
All right. So this is an action item. It's a request to remove from Chapter 61B for 85 Fitzpatrick Road. So is there someone here to speak to that that's on the call?
I don't believe so, but I can give the background.
Please do.
So the parcel needs to be removed from chapter 61B, for them to build their single-family house that we permitted not too long ago. It's going to come off the driveway of the neighboring house, so it will become a shared driveway. If that rings any bells for anybody. There is no purchase and sale for this because it isn't changing hands. They just want to unenroll it from the program in order to be able to build a house. Beyond the wetlands that are on site that triggered permitting with us, GIS didn't turn up any habitat, or it's outside of the ACEC. We don't have open space next door. So I didn't see anything of extreme value, for the sake of the right of first refusal. So I would recommend that the select board not pursue right of first refusal on this, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you guys have them.
All right. Sandy, any questions or comments?
Just
For
a quick
85?
question. Yeah, just a quick question for Leah. Obviously, this is not in the open space plan, not mentioned, not listed or anything.
I didn't check, but I would doubt it because it's in a neighborhood of,
There's nothing
Homes.
adjacent. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's it.
Okay.
Like it's
Travis? Sorry, you cut out, Travis.
nothing else for me. I'm okay with that, with Leah's recommendation.
All right. Leah, anything else to bring up, or?
you do need to make a motion on that to formalize the recommendation.
Okay, so do I have a motion to recommend the select board not pursue right of first refusal for 85 Fitzpatrick Road?
So moved.
Second,
Got a motion and a second. Travis,
Yes.
Sandy,
yes.
I'm also a yes, the motion passes.
The only other thing I have was just to mention to you guys that Jan and I will be hosting a hike out at Hassanamessett Woods on October 4th. It's a Friday at 10 a.m. So we'll be leading a hike out there, letting people know some of the features out on that property. We very recently took the 3 guides that have been made for that property. One's the history of the property, one is like the natural environment of the property, and the third one is for kids. Jan did a great job kind of like splicing those guides together and then creating QR codes for the numbered posts along the trail. So now when you get to the post, you can scan the code and it will tell you what's at, say, number 4 across all 3 of those guides. So we just got that online, and then we'll be leading folks around there. That's on the 4th. If that's of interest to you guys, you're welcome to attend.
Where's the trailhead that you're going to be meeting at there? Is that, I'm assuming it'll be posted in the Facebook or wherever you're posting that, but
Yeah, it's at the end of Salisbury Street. We're running the like registration and all that stuff is going through rec. We partnered with them on it because they have all those like logistical things already set up. There's no cost for this, but folks are signing up through them. So they'll be pushing out those details for us as it gets closer.
Could you send out the link to us when they do come out?
Sure.
Thank you.
yeah, as someone that walks a lot, I do like to go and walk in the woods. It's a little softer on my feet than the asphalt in my neighborhood. So, okay, that's a good heads up. So, anything else, Leah or Jan, need to go
That's
through?
all I got.
No,
Just
All
an
right.
excellent job, Jonathan.
I got an easy one, I guess.
Sorry about the tech issues tonight.
No, that's all right. It happens to all of us. So I think I just need one more motion.
What could that be?
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
We've got a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call vote. Sandy,
yes.
Travis?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very
So-
much, everyone.